There we go. Okay, so thanks everyone for being here, for making the most of Buy Local campaigns, and we'll be talking about both campaigns that we run. The BC Buy Local campaign, which is BC Amplify, and then BC Buy Local Week is one of the main focuses of the consumer campaign, and then we've expanded that to focus on other major purchasing holidays throughout the year. And we'll just do a quick round of intros, and then I'm just going to give you an overview of the research on the impacts of local business. That's, LOCO is sort of like a research organization and then a campaigning education organization. So we do research that proves mostly the economic impacts, but also the social and environmental impacts of local business, and we use those in our campaigns. I'll give you an overview of the campaigns we have to support local businesses. And then what the tools are within those campaigns to measure and communicate local impact. And then, I'll give you some ideas about how to leverage the campaigns. I've sort of pulled together a lot of examples of how our partners over the years and local businesses are, using different tools to make to communicate their buy local impact and to leverage the campaign to improve their buy local marketing. And then I just think let's keep it casual. I'm not going to do big discussion questions at the end. So just, just jump in, interrupt me, or put up your hand or something if you have any questions throughout. And I just want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And I'd love if you would share in the chat where you are calling in from and whose land your office is on. We just had Truth and Reconciliation Day, so I'm sure I know a lot of us closed our offices and took some time to educate ourselves and think about how to integrate, Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations, particularly Recommendation 92 around corporate reconciliation. And, certainly I did a training with Small Business BC around small business reconciliation. And we've been trying to promote Indigenous owned businesses and attend more Indigenous business events. That's what we're committed to in the short term. Okay. Any questions about the agenda? We're all good? Anything you want me to cover that's not on there?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Isabel, for adding in the chat. Let's just do a quick round of intros. And if you're okay doing, adding your video while you do so, great. And if not, just throw on your voice. Want to start with you folks out in Maple Ridge, Ridge's boardroom?
Sure. Good morning. So my name is Jeff Baker. I'm Business Retention and Expansion Advisor with the Economic Development Department with the City of Maple Ridge. We are on the territories, the traditional unceded territories of the Katzie First Nation and Kwantlen First Nation.
Awesome. Who's there in the room with you? Go around the table.
Hi, I'm Flory Chukowski. I'm the Executive Director for the Downtown Maple Ridge Business Improvement Association.
Nice to see you.
I am Dara. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce that serves Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows. We also operate and work on the Katzie and Kwantlen First Nations unceded territories.
Great. Well, thanks. I appreciate that you all are here. That's the best kind of a partnership that we have with Buy Local partners, when you can, bring in all the folks that represent businesses within a community. So I love that you joined the partnership and that you're all working together to implement it. Can we move over to you, Downtown New West?
Hi, this is Angeline,
Hi.
Executive Director at the Downtown New West BIA, calling in from the traditional lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territories, but work on the traditional lands of the Kakite First Nation in New West.
Awesome. The City of New West has been a Buy Local Week partner for several years, so nice to have you. Yeah, great. Purvis?
Yes, hi, I'm Purvis. I manage one of the stores in the company, and we came across this opportunity to just get a little bit more information about what Buy Local is about and the various programs that you have.
Mhm.
So just curious, unfortunately, I don't have the information in terms of the land that we are on, so my apologies for that. We're throughout the Lower Mainland in Vancouver Island, and on our head office is located in Vancouver. But yes, I was interested to know just what you had to share and various programs and campaigns that you do have that we could see that if there was any kind of a fit for us as a company, because we are a locally owned company.
Love it.
So just was interested to see what you have.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Over to you, Isabel at Heights. Are you there? Oh, using a desktop computer, doesn't have a mic either. Left my laptop at home by accident. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We've worked with Heights Merchant Association in the Burnaby Heights area. We've been working with them for many, many years. I've known Isabel, and they're doing great things over there. So great to have you as a partner again this year. Thanks for being here. So these are our Buy Local program partners for this year. We've got some, some of you and some really interesting new partners as a result of our outreach to, the business to business. I love the story of how Vancam Freightways, they're one of the only locally owned freight companies left in BC. I interviewed the CEO yesterday. He was saying that there's been so much consolidation in their industry, as there has been in many industries, and he saw our Buy Local sticker in a barbershop. So his barber had it in the window. One of the things that we do is we distribute the program materials for free. So thank you to all of you as partners, because you help us print those materials and be able to ship them to businesses across the province for free, so that the brand gets out there. And I really think that helps all of us in the Buy Local message. So anyway, thanks to all of our partners. We really appreciate working with all of you, and you help make the campaign great and improve our reach across the province. As I said, I'm the founder and executive director of Local BC, and we do research and impact measurement. And then, part of the research is that we want to take those, we don't want research to sit on the shelf. So, so what we do is then take those stats and facts from the research and then roll it into our campaigns and try to provide not just the statistics, but also collateral that can be used to educate different audiences. So, the research that we've done has been used across the country, and we partnered for the first time at a national level with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business last year and they have 90,000 members across the country. They wanted to use our methodology to produce the first stats for each province and the country as a whole. So we're pretty proud of that. And we just won an award, a national award, for one of our research projects. It's all hush hush until next Thursday when we're presented with the award, and then there'll be a public announcement. But we're pretty proud of that work. And then we do try to identify through our work with businesses and our partners what some of the key issues are for businesses. So we, try to educate audiences to shift spending towards local businesses, but also are looking at what's the enabling environment for local businesses to thrive. So sometimes those are, sometimes it's regulation, sometimes it's policy. And so if we hear that there's an issue, often we'll try to launch different projects, bring in partners to do the research that can then influence change. So in the city of Vancouver, for instance, many urban areas that are developing quickly have an issue with permit and license delays. In Vancouver, it's notorious. And so we worked with BOMA BC, the Downtown Vancouver Business Association, and then the BIA partnership in Vancouver to measure, what's the cost of that? Because, everyone cares about jobs, and purchasing with local suppliers and economic development. And so tried to show not just to the business that's sitting, it has a leased space and it has to pay the rent and lose revenue while it's sitting empty, but what's the cost to the broader economy in terms of lost employment and lost purchasing to local suppliers. And that type of work has been used to influence change in the process. It's been, the current council used it in their campaigning because it became such a well-known issue through this work. And another thing we're working on right now is commercial affordability. I know your council is really working on this in New West, and then we're talking to we did a year's worth of scoping on that project, and we're going to launch it in January. Just bringing on partners now, but we're mostly working with developers to do an environment scan and look at case studies of where and how it's possible, and then how we can encourage industry education and what's possible to do amongst the development community, and then what they need to change at kind of the policy and planning level. So that's some of the work that we do. You're going to hear all about our campaigns, both the new BC Amplify campaign, which is more of a business-to-business campaign focusing on local suppliers, and then the BC Buy Local Week and other events throughout the year that we've been running for many years. And as part of that, we've always done campaign impact measurement. So we've developed some tools to help businesses identify how am I local? How can I, improve my local impact maybe? And how can I talk about it? So we're gonna focus on some of those tools today. So local impact, the top four, I kind of developed this 4 Ps methodology because it helps me remember. But when we do impact measurement work, especially economic impact measurement work, we follow a dollar that comes into a local business, and every dollar of revenue in any business it circulates around and then goes out of the community. And so local businesses keep that money circulating in the community much more often and many times more than multinationals. And so it's about, part of that is about private ownership, because as soon as a business is located outside of your community, then the profits to owners are leaving the community immediately. And profits are not a bad thing. We actually hope that businesses are making them. I know a lot of small businesses are struggling to make profit these days, but the profits, when you think about it, local owner or owners is reinvesting that. Maybe they're renovating their house or sending their kids to schools or classes or whatever, and so spending money on groceries and things like that. And so that money again is recirculating in the community. With companies that are not privately held, so businesses that are trading on the stock exchange and are public companies, then profits are going to shareholders, which are distributed, across the country potentially. And if it's a multinational that's not a public company that's not based here, then those shareholders might not even be in Canada. So the benefit of local businesses economically, it starts with profits. And then that's a smaller part, just because local businesses are not generally gigantic profit makers. But payroll tends to be the number one recirculation impact. They have, their employees are mostly local. And also the higher level, as a business grows and becomes successful, the marketing people, the fleet management people, all of those kinds of things are generally retained around the business's head office. So they work at the business's head office. So some other things, I always think of the example of Fluevog shoes, eventually they couldn't make them in Canada anymore. So they work with partners in Portugal and other places. But the team here is responsible for all of the locations they have, the management staff, the higher level, those big good salaries, design, all of that kind of stuff is based here around their head office in Vancouver. So there's a huge benefit to that. There's this kind of misunderstanding that small businesses don't pay as much. I've been checking into the data around, because it was, we're planning for a small business week and I'm doing some stats around small business, and, the stats around big business providing better salaries. I just checked with the way that statistic is produced. It includes the CEO. So I have a problem with the methodology that says small businesses pay less, because a CEO who makes $1 billion a year is also included in the averaging of those big businesses. So I actually think, small businesses, every business I talk to is trying to pay a living wage, and really because they're in the community, because they have small teams, their employees are like family. They want to pay a living wage so that their employees can afford to live in the expensive cities and pay rent and things like that. So yeah, anyway, payroll is a big economic benefit to a local business, and that it includes the employees' salaries, but it also includes benefits when we measure it. And then purchasing is also huge. Our last study showed that local businesses they use 31% is usually with local inventory if they have it, or local service providers. And so you might not be an inventory business, but we all buy things. We're a small organization. We spend money on on advertising and website management and graphic design and all of these things. And so local businesses are just much more likely to keep that money in the community with local service providers and inventory if they have it. And then lastly is philanthropy or charitable giving. And our research shows that local businesses donate 25 times more per dollar of revenue than their big multinational competitors. And if you run a local business or talk to local businesses, you know that this is true. They're behind the counter, or they're reachable. And so they get hit up for every silent auction or community sports team that's trying to raise money. And so yeah, just whenever I talk to a local business and we do impact measurement, they are often very humble about it, and we don't do too much, and then there's the list of like the 25 organizations that they're working with, and all the money that they're contributing to the community. Sometimes it's time or employee time as well. One of the things that came out of the CFIB study that we did last year is that, and it makes sense, like local businesses donate more when they do better. So that the charitable sector is huge in Canada in terms of economic power and employment, and we want to keep it strong. And so when local businesses do better, then the charitable sector does better as well. Any questions about that? Those are the 4 areas of economic impact. There's taxes and things like that. So, big businesses pay taxes too, some of them. And, if we're comparing businesses that are in the community, hopefully, if they have a storefront, they're paying property taxes and things like that. We haven't measured that too much. So, but these are the 4 areas that we measure, and this is what it's based on when we say, that it's kind of up to 6 times if you're spending with a local business. The last thing is practices. So we also look at social and environmental practices, and local businesses, some of them are doing it, some of them aren't, but many of them are very conscious of it. And again, they're in the community. So they tend to not be, the big polluters who just have like a business somewhere and don't worry about the impacts because it's their community too. And this is something that we feel passionate about. I came from the sustainability world, and so we're also trying to promote what businesses do in terms of their social and environmental practices, and educate them if they want to do more. So this research is from 2019, and we looked at retailers and restaurants. So the research that we did most recently showed that local businesses create 4.6 times the economic impact of their multinational competitors. And that dollar of revenue that comes in, they keep 63% of it in the community versus 14% for their competitors that are multinationals. And, you know, because we know that consumers aren't going to buy every single thing at a local business, we try to encourage a shift, you know, when people are thinking about their holiday shopping or corporate gifts or anything like that. We try to say, think about, you know, think about 10% of your spending. And if every consumer did that in BC, it would create a huge economic benefit, create more than 14,000 jobs and send more than $4 billion in wages to BC workers in the community. And then you'll see some of our stats that I mentioned on this graphic. 31% of the revenue of local businesses are spent with other local businesses, and that keeps the money recirculating in the community, as well as the charitable giving that they do. The work that we did with the CFIB, they insisted that we do retail only, so that's why I mentioned both. And we found that it actually was even more. 66% of spending stays local when you spend with a local retailer, compared to 11 cents with a multinational, so 6 times. We also looked at, most studies have only ever looked at brick and mortar, and we know that, of course, a lot of spending is going online, both consumer spending and business spending. And so we found that when you compare a local brick and mortar store to one of the big online platforms, it's actually 8 times the money that stays in your local community versus, you know, it's kind of flying out of the community. Of course, there are small businesses on many of those platforms. However, many of the suppliers are not small businesses. I could have a whole webinar on the practices of those big platforms to take small businesses, and then if they're big sellers, they mimic their products and put it under their own brand. And so you can support a small business on some of those big platforms, but it's not necessarily great for small business. And most of the spending is not with small businesses, and then the only real economic benefit is that maybe there's a warehouse in your community, so there's some warehouse jobs, and then delivery. So they call it last mile in the States, last kilometer, kind of whatever. If it's the postal truck or courier that delivers it to your door, that's really some of the only economic benefit of spending online. The study on retailers, again, showed that 2/3 of every dollar spent at a small retailer is recirculated locally, and here's how it breaks down. As I mentioned, it's not a lot to the owners necessarily. 6 cents on the dollar, six of that 66 cents that stays local. And then labor is a big part of it, 19 cents. Services and goods are kind of 38 cents, so even more than our 31% stat that we had in the previous graphic. And then 3 cents of that is charitable donations, compared to only 11 cents overall for multinational brick and mortar, and 8 cents for online giants. Any questions about that? Okay, last one. This is from, it's a while ago. It was our first study, actually, but I bring it in here because it focuses more on that business to business side. There hasn't been much research done around business to business spending and how it keeps money local. We looked at office supplies at the time, and compared one of our partners, Mills Basics. They are an office supply and office productivity company. They were based here in East Van. Now they're based in Surrey, but have locations across the province. And we found, when we compared them to Office Max, which is, I think, known under the brand Grand & Toy in Canada, but was bought out by Office Max, a US multinational, a number of years ago, and then Staples. And at the time, way back 2013, we had the foresight to look at Office Depot, which had just changed. They had just closed all of their brick and mortar stores in Canada, but they were still operating online. And we compared the recirculation of money within those companies and found that it's at least double between Office Max and Mills Basics. Grand & Toy, it was a little bit higher, just because a little higher than expected and a bit higher than Staples, because they are a unionized workforce. So they had a bit higher wages and benefits. And so that kept a bit more of the money recirculating locally. But you can see it's shocking again between the locally based brick and mortar company, Mills Basics, and Office Depot only operating online, how the difference in the local recirculation and that economic power of a dollar that's spent from a local business or a municipality or consumer on local office supplies versus ordering something online. So those are mostly economic benefits, but of course there are social and environmental benefits of local business as well. Community character and social fabric that local businesses create and build. They support local labor standards. I mean, they are held to Canadian labor standards. We don't know about the labor standards of other businesses or other businesses and countries when we're importing products and ordering them online. I was researching, somebody gave me some eyeshadow and I was like, I don't know, eyeshadow can have toxic ingredients in it. And so I looked up the company and found articles on that, Amazon was selling eyeshadow with, asbestos in it. So, I just think like, unless you want to research every little thing that you're buying, then supporting, Canadian made products and Canadian businesses is, a way to do it more ethically and not have to worry about those things. I mentioned already they donate 25 times per dollar of revenue, and then they also have environmental benefits. When we talk about local storefronts, then they are often located in walkable, dense downtown areas, so there's not as much driving in gigantic parking lots. There's reduced transportation in their supply chains, and then again they support local environmental standards, and lastly, reduce waste. We did some research with Vancity in 2021 around the carbon impact, as well as the economic impact of buying local products from local businesses rather than an imported product from a non-local business, and found that, economically, we knew that the local products would be, and the local businesses would have a higher economic benefit. So it wasn't any big surprise that it was between 2 and 7 times, and 123 times was kind of the outlier. I'll tell you why that was so high in a minute. And then we looked at the greenhouse gas reduction benefit of buying those local products, and it was also between 5 and 66 times. And you'd be surprised that when we looked at the different aspects of greenhouse gas reductions, that we expected it to be transportation. You hear that stat, the only stat that we knew of previously about the greenhouse gases of local products versus non-local products is like, how far an ingredient has to travel to get to your plate. And I think the implication there is that the travel is the worst part of the greenhouse gas emissions. But what we found is it was waste in many cases, that local businesses were doing very interesting things with their waste or trying to reduce waste, probably because they can't afford to lose their inventory, and so that was a big part of the greenhouse gas reduction. The gravel bike, we produced a whole bunch of stats that's on our website if you're interested in digging in further. So we did also look at a bike that wasn't direct to consumer, but this economic benefit of the local bike versus the imported bike is so high because it was a frame built in Canada, a frame made in Canada rather, and then a bike built at a local bike shop using that frame, compared to a direct consumer model. The bike industry is I think that it's one of the first companies where they will ship it right to your door. There's no sort of retailers, and so these types of businesses often sell it as like, that there's no middle person, there's no, you don't have to pay all these different people, and the price is lower as a result. It's the mattress industry. Those bed in a box companies it's all over the mattress industry, but it's coming to other businesses. And so we found that, although it sounds great, we're going to ship this bike right to your door, there's a huge amount of emissions associated with that, because every bike is coming on a plane. But then also the economic benefit of a local bike and a local bike shop compared to, again, that company was not based here. the product isn't built here. The only economic benefit of that bike was that's kind of last kilometer delivery from the airport to the consumer's front door. Any questions? All good? Okay, I'm gonna jump into our campaigns finally. So the two campaigns we have are, we have it under the umbrella of BC Buy Local. So the BC Buy Local campaigns have kind of two different focuses now, the business to business side and then the consumer side. So the consumer side has been running around major purchasing holidays for many years now. And the main focus is around BC Buy Local Week. We do that not because we believe in rampant consumerism, but studies show, credit card companies do studies every year showing how much consumers spend over the holidays. And so, and when I say the holidays, I mean, there's many different multicultural holidays kind of from this time of year through till, January. And so many different people from different cultures and religions are celebrating different holidays, and they have to do with spending. They have to do with either gifting or big meals, celebrations. And so, and also people spend money on travel because we do, most of us have different days off work over the next few months. And so that's why, their studies show that people spend more money at this time of year. And so it's a good time to try to convince them to shift some of their spending to local. So that's why we focus on that with the consumer campaign. And then around business to business, we've always focused around businesses' supply chains with that impact measurement. We're always, because of the recirculation of spending on the purchasing side, that 1P that we talked about. That's one thing we can control really easily, right? Is shifting suppliers and keeping the money with other local suppliers in the community. And so we've always focused on that, but we haven't tried to engage those business to business suppliers so much over the years. And so last year we launched more of a business to business campaign focused around Small Business Week in Canada. This is, I guess it's Small Business Month as well in the month of October, but Small Business Week is usually around launches on the 20th this year. It's usually around the third week in October. And so we're really trying to engage those B2B suppliers and focus on localizing supply chains, educating businesses on who is local, how to look at your supply chain, which categories to look at, and providing tools and promotion around that. So some of the tools are similar for both campaigns. For the Amplify Local campaign, we provide local purchasing tools. So, kind of a list of different suppliers and how to figure out whether a supplier is local. And then we're trying to connect them to local suppliers. We're building a spreadsheet of local suppliers and doing supplier profiles on our website. With both campaigns, of course, we provide campaign materials for partners and businesses to activate in their communities or to tell their local story if you're a business. And then we do digital advertising and social posts. So I think we just sent all the materials out to our partners for this year as of October 1st. And so last year we did webinars. I think we're going to do an event for local suppliers in January this year instead, when there's kind of during that dead time for local business. And we'll probably do an in-person event this year. Last year we did workshops. And for BC Buy Local, coming up is Buy Local Week. It's the first week in December. I believe it starts on the 2nd this year. It always follows Black Friday, and we launch on Cyber Monday. So we try to leverage those sort of like big American focused spending holidays to get media attention. And, we've managed to get decent media attention for the last several years. We try to focus it on all types of spending, but it tends to be the media is mostly interested in retail around that time of year. But, people are spending on many more things, experiences, travel, gift cards. And so we have kind of a framework of focus on the different ways to spend local that we've activated for the last several years during Buy Local Week. And, we've had some pretty great results for the campaign. I think we got, kind of 250,000 impressions for the Amplify Local campaign, and for the Buy Local campaign, I think it's in the millions. So the tools that we have to communicate local impact, we've got the How Are We Local poster, which I'll go through in a minute. And then we have an impact assessment that either you can do with your own business, or encourage businesses in your area to do. We've got some supply chain mapping tools. Those are mostly for the B2B campaign. Local purchasing resources for business to business, and then business profiles for both campaigns. And then in general, of course, for both campaigns, we produce collateral we have sort of general collateral that we've produced out of our research over the years. So, that one report we had on the carbon and economic impact of local businesses. We produce the report, but then we produce companion infographics that we try to use to, promote throughout the year, and certainly encourage businesses to use those. We've produced, tons of stickers. The stickers are really to put on a shelf or a product. We have them digitally and kind of in real life, which we will send out as part of those Buy Local packages. And we have like a nice local owned cling film for people's front doors. And as I mentioned before, we'll send these across the province. And so one of the benefits of the campaign, and what we were trying to do with this campaign, is for consumers at least, is have a recognizable campaign across the province. And we've heard that from people, like, oh, I saw that in Whistler, or I saw that over in Tofino as well. That's that local program. And so trying to create that umbrella program that then you can activate in your community with your own branding. Loco's brand is not on it. That was very intentional, so that communities can co-brand it. Tofino, Squamish, Langley, many communities have used their own logo on the BC Buy Local materials over the years. And then we have BC Buy Local campaign materials that we produce every year for our partners, and that's true of the Amplify campaign as well. So there's a bit of a different spin on it every year. And then we do digital advertising. So if you join as a partner at a certain level, you'll get a video ad, and we're always gathering collateral for you to try to make those tools as representative of your community as possible. So the How Are We Local poster, some of you will have done this exercise with us before, but we encourage businesses, even organizations, to put themselves in the middle of this map, and then to talk about some of their local suppliers. I'm always surprised by how hard it is for some people. They don't know who's local, or they don't think about how they spend money. They're not thinking about, like, oh, I have insurance, or I have all these things, and that every one of those suppliers is an opportunity to keep your money in the community. So I love that exercise. We've been doing it for many years. Still, at every workshop I do, people are stumped and then surprised. And so I love that exercise. It's available now in a digital fillable PDF off of our website at that link, by bcbuylocal.com/download resources. And then, some of what we're trying to do is educate people around what is local. As I mentioned, part of the economic development piece about local business is that the profits stay local. So, it's a private business is what we consider local, because those profits can't stay local with publicly owned companies. And so that's one of the things we tell businesses and consumers to do is, if you don't know if it's local, then, if it's got a symbol on the TSX or the stock exchange anywhere, then it's not a local business. And then, so that's about the local ownership piece, that it's privately owned in BC with more than 50% of the owners here. And then local grown and local made are a little bit more straightforward, of course. And, part of what we're trying to do with our campaigns is to identify all three of these things and to illuminate the market of, where are locally owned businesses, where are local made and grown products, because, the way people shop is complicated. And it might be sometimes that you're shopping at a local business, but you're buying an imported product. And it might be sometimes that a study we did on consumer habits a couple of years ago found that I think 30% of people were looking for local grown and local made products at like wherever they shop. So, and of course we want multinationals to buy local products as well. So, Isabel mentioned Spud Organic Food Delivery is on the TSX, but they're local. Yes, they are. And you're going to find, public companies that grew from, and it's certainly better because their head office is here. But again, that's why we give you the economic framework, just so you can look at, okay, the profits are no longer local, but are they still, Spud is still really committed to local products. So, their supply chain is quite local in terms of their inventory. So it's certainly a better choice than others that might not support the local economy quite as much. And so, this is a framework where we're trying to educate consumers on like just thinking about their choices, basically, also businesses and their supply chains. So it's not always going to be a local product from a local business with local ingredients. That's kind of like the hat trick, we say. But that would be like most of the things at the farmers market, for instance, or businesses that are like really committed to local, it's a local owned business that sells like crafts and food, locally made food products and candles and things like that. There are big corporations that sell local products, and so it's not local owned, but you're going to find local grown and local made things there. And then sometimes you're going to find local owned businesses that sell imported products. So it's we're aiming for some one or more of these things, and just trying to provide a framework where people can think about, especially businesses can think about who's in their supply chain and what kind of value they want to have. And, they're balancing these things with cost and availability and convenience and other things as well. So any other questions about that? Yes.
I just wanted to know, like the local owned, so across the three, grown and made, it says over 50%. So is the local owned reflecting through grown and made? Like would that percentage ever change between the three? Because all three say over 50%.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically, this is how we define it. We want, and how we defined it in the campaign, because we had to sort of put a stake in the ground somewhere. Right. And that's generally how you define, how other organizations define it, as like more than half, right? Okay. But yeah, I mean, is it a local made product? This is where you get into, some people think like, oh, there's wine that says bottled in BC, but it doesn't say, but the grapes are not from here, right? And so there's like many shades of, and so we would say, well, the manufacturing jobs are here. And so there is a benefit. I think like, yes, it shouldn't be trying to sell itself as like a wholly local grown, local made product, but I feel like that's pretty transparent, right? If you understand where the economic benefit of that is, then I'd rather have it bottled here than if the grapes are from California and it's bottled in California, then there's zero economic benefit for us. So, so this is how we define it. I think that every business has to look at, what are the things that they're trying to balance, and, in your communities, like, you're often, I know that chambers of commerce and business improvement associations are often looking at like, well, our members first, right? So that might be like, we define it as like within our community, and then we're looking for these other things in terms of ownership and whether or not people are supporting local charities and using local suppliers, all those kinds of things. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. For the first time, this is challenging because you know, as an organization, we're more about less about the definition and more about, well, like, why don't you show us what your impact is, right? Like we're working with Kitimat right now on their Keep It Local Kitimat campaign, and they don't have a lot of local options. And so for them, it's so much better if people are going to Kyle's No Frills than it is if they're ordering their food on Amazon. And so we were like, well, if that's a part of a multinational company, but if they have local impact, then let's help you measure what it is, right? It's not local owned, but if he's doing a lot to support, you know, local grown and local made and local jobs and all of those kinds of things. So we're a bit more open, I think, than other buy local groups to looking, because we look at the measuring the impact rather than like the strict definition. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's complicated, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the supply chain and purchasing resources, we're encouraging businesses to think about, you know, who's in your supply chain and providing kind of a spread. We have like a simple little spreadsheet of supplier categories. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, we get people to do it in 10, 15 minutes in a workshop. And generally we're trying to think about like, where do I spend the most money? It doesn't have to be every single category, but you know, I like a lot of businesses will say, well, I have this, I have that, I have that. It's like, well, where do you know, your insurance is probably like a lot of money. So that might be where you want to think about, you know, how is that money recirculating locally? Is it easy to find a local supplier? Some of these things might be harder to switch out. I know people have a tough time getting out of their waste management contracts, for instance. A good time to think about this is when you're starting your business so that you don't have to then go and change those things. So we love when people reach out and say, you know, oh, I need a lawyer, I need so-and-so. Do you know anyone? Because that's the time when you can, you know, get them to use a local business. And then for both campaigns, we use this, we have the assessment and the infographic. So we used to do this manually. And then in 2021, we got a Launch Online grant to turn this into an online tool. And we'll share I'll share the link in the chat in a minute. But there's a bit of information on like how to think about these things in terms of, we're really just looking at all of the aspects of economic impact, except for the profits. We didn't think a lot of businesses are going to want to say how much their profit is. And so we mostly just focus on purchasing. And we find that most businesses want to articulate not just their local purchasing within BC, but also their Canadian purchasing. And so we sort of have like two levels of purchasing, both for inventory and services. And then employment, most businesses that are local have 100% local employment, but not all. And then you can include charitable giving on here as well. So there's 6 potential pieces of data. I think you need 3 of them to auto-generate one of these infographics at the bottom right, but I've given an example of Lulu's Apron, a Black-owned business here in Vancouver. And then so they didn't include their percentage of charitable giving. And then the little icons on the left-hand side are customizable. So people can, you know, if they're talking about their employment, you can upload a little image of your team if you want to, instead of using our icons. So we love those. That has been used, that tool, I checked yesterday, I think 250 times. So businesses are using it as a way to, it's an education tool too. There's little videos to really like help them think through, and then they can use the tools, the supply chain tools to measure who's local and who's not. And just that process of like, oh, I had to Google, like I thought my bank was local because it had a Canadian name in it, but it's not actually. And so just that process of going through it, measuring it, and then, you know, thinking about, do you want to change your, you know, your bank, your insurance, your whoever, then we'll connect you with local service providers. And certainly, you know, you will play a role in that. So there's the URL. If you want to produce your own assessment or encourage businesses in your network to do it, it's on the bcbuylocal.com site at impact-assessment. And then the last thing is business profiles. So on our website, we have been, and with many of our partners, part of our agreement is to do some assessments with the business members in their area. And we're really focusing on two key areas. It's got like a photo of the business and you know, a blurb about the business, the background, and some about info. But really the two main things we're trying to focus on there are how is your business supporting other local businesses? And then what social and environmental practices are you proud of? So it's kind of the economic side and the social and environmental side. So under supporting local businesses, we usually are asking people to talk about their purchasing, but also any partnerships that they have, any like cool collaborations, things like that, where they're supporting other suppliers in different ways. And then the social practices are typically employment practices, sometimes, you know, like types of hiring or employee development. And then social could also be a little bit of purchasing. There's ways you can buy from like social enterprises, for instance, where you might get a social benefit through your purchasing. And then lastly is environmental impact, sorry, under social as well as the charitable giving. So we try to get as many of those P's in here as possible. And then the last is anything that the business is doing to reduce environmental impact or have some kind of environmental benefit. And we've got, you know, hundreds of these stories on the website under each community. And then many businesses have been just added without their community being involved. So that's one thing we encourage people to do is tell your local story. And so part of that is the economic impact, like, you know, anything cool you're doing, you know, keeping the profit local, how that works, anything under this, you know, local owners, family owned, multiple generations, et cetera. It's always very interesting. Like Van Cam was telling me yesterday about their origin story. And it was like his grandpa started it, the current CEO, his grandpa started it off with his Harley Davidson, you know, 77 years ago, and now it's grown to a huge company. And so that's, you know, people love to hear that and they want to support that. And so I often find that, you know, in that case, it was on their website, but in some cases, you know, businesses aren't telling that story. So we're certainly encouraging you to talk about those things. You know, businesses and consumers are interested in those. You know, talk about your payroll, your purchasing, anything you do in terms of philanthropy, and then the social impact that you have, the quality of the jobs you provide, benefits, living wage, any profit sharing you might do, if you're co-op or employee owned, diversity hiring, social hiring, all that kind of stuff. Partnerships with other local businesses, support for community events, people, causes, any time you donate, money, you know, product, etc. And then on the environmental side, your efforts to reduce impact or practices that provide environmental benefit. And there's some examples. So the top right there is just kind of this Instagram style tile block we have on the business page on bcbylocal.com. And then here's an example of when we partnered with the Sunshine Coast, just Super Value on the Sunshine Coast and what they're doing. So I'm just going to give you some examples on how to leverage a campaign. And campaigns, what makes campaigns awesome? It's if we're all working together. And that's you know, part of the reason why we provide all the materials and are trying to help give these examples on how others have done it is just so we can all work together. That is one thing that is powerful about particularly Buy Local Week as we've grown our partners over the years and businesses and business support organizations get excited about it is there's so much, we're all doing it at that same time. And so it kind of cuts through the clutter. It's a digital campaign. So although we provide, you know, we provide campaign materials that are print and we hope that businesses use them. We also hope that they'll like snap a picture of it and put it online. There's so much that shows like how much people are getting their information for purchasing online. And so it's been very successful to make this a digital campaign. So some of the ideas we have for you. So share the posts. We're going to be posting throughout Small Business Week and Buy Local Week coming up throughout the year as well. But there's two main times coming up that if you just simply share our posts, that's not very difficult to do. You can also use all the campaign materials to promote local businesses. There's many different ways to partner with our campaign, both paid and free. And if you're an organization that promotes local businesses, then we have some ideas about how you can use the tools to support businesses in your community. You can either yourself as a business or encourage businesses you work with to share how they're local. This sort of reinforces the message around why people should buy local during these times of year. The How Are We Local poster is great because you can tag your suppliers, and people love a little shout out when you're working with their business. Share other aspects of your local impact other than purchasing. Feature your local partners, your clients, your suppliers. Feature local dining and shopping events, contests, things like that. Integrate the Buy Local messages into your social media, so you can use our materials that have those messages, or you can just take the stats and facts and use them in your own social. Specials and promotions, and then you post the BC Buy Local materials and use the hashtag. Should add the BC Amplify Local hashtag to that as well. So I'm just going to run through a whole bunch of examples. So let me know if you have any questions, but this is, how businesses and our campaign partners and just other random folks around the province that we've noticed using the branding and to tell their own story. So use the campaign materials. I love this How Are We Local poster because it's a very small business. Again, it's like one owner. I don't think she has any staff. But of course she has spending. And so she's here articulating businesses that she works with for graphic design and banking and accounting and post services, corporate gifts. And so it just illustrates that she actually cut the poster off because maybe she couldn't think of two others. I bet you she could. I bet you she has. We also encourage people, if it's not necessarily like a supplier, maybe you meet clients for coffee and you could include that coffee shop. That's some of your spending related to your business. So we can almost always get people to include 8 suppliers on that list. Recycling alternative over on the left, it cut it off unfortunately, but there's they've used our big BC Buy Local dot on their trucks. VanCam just joined. They did a great blog post about it. They're going to use the Buy Local branding on their trucks as well across the province. This business down here is just using the local owned dot on their front door. And then, both digitally and in person, people are using the campaign materials. So at the top left there, they printed them out, they blew them up. They could have used, we have rack cards that are that gray, those gray infographics, but they printed it out, they put it on their front door. They included their How Are We Local poster to try to tell their customers about how they're a local business. This was a great company to change names, and I think these are no longer the owners, but they were excited when they got into a big grocery store, and so they put all the Buy Local branding on the used a bunch of the dots to say that they're local made products. Again, this company down on the left is using the BC Buy Local stickers on their local made hot sauces. We heard from them, and then we heard from Donald's Market as well, that when they sticker their products, they just fly off the shelves. Donald's happened to one day have cookies that maybe they had 50 bags of cookies and they only got 20 stickers up before they got distracted. And then they came back and all of those cookies were gone, and then they had the rest of them on the shelf. So it does work. People recognize it as local, and you see people using it digitally. Locally made bedding manufacturer and retailer has been, they tend to use the materials online. And then here, Good Omen was one of our businesses we managed to feature with New West last year, and got them in the media as well. They've got the great local owned sticker on their door. They put up the poster. They, stickered a lot of the products in store. So there's many, many different ways you can use the materials to talk about how you're local. And then another thing is to share local impact. So as I mentioned, you don't have to use our materials. You can use the stats. I love Downtown Langley BIA is kind of like using their own images, but then using our stats throughout the text of the post. And usually they, people tag us on those things. A recycling alternative. This is an example of one of our business profiles, and that's demonstrating in terms of local impact is all of the suppliers they work with, their employment that they have. It's a way that they're really telling their story, and they share that out. Here's an example from one of the businesses that we did a story on. I love that they're sort of just like taking a screenshot, integrating it into their Instagram story. They've got like a nice, they've made it their own. And then they, put an arrow here to show how to find their story. So it's a great example of like them sharing out their story. Similarly, Squamish Connector here in the middle was, they had one of these stories done, and then, did a post on all like kind of how top 10 things that we're doing, and then linked to the story. So there's some great examples there of how to share local impact. And then, if you're a business, or you can encourage businesses to tell their local story. I mean, what I mentioned about No Frills here is that we were really like, okay, what is local about them, and how can we help them tell that story so that money does stay within the community? And so that happened to be with a business profile. But again, we're trying to help them articulate using that framework of local owned, grown, and made, and then the 5 Ps, really, like your payroll, of your purchasing, of your profits, of your philanthropy, and of your practices is local, social, or environmental. I love this example. This is my dog's pet store. But they sort of like took they used some of our materials and talked about the stats and facts in this post. They did a series of posts. In this post, they're really like, this is our family. This is this is who profits when you support our business. I love that they just showed like a picture of them and their kids on the couch. And then they were also trying to talk about their staff and their hiring practices, and a great photo of their staff. Lunipads here, they've changed names now, but they again were telling their story online using some of the digital collateral, talking about how they're not only a local owned business but locally made products. So I love that they've kind of like used both those dots and telling that story in the caption. This organic store was using the BC by Local dot, and then in the caption, telling the story about how their business is full of local products. And then we did a local business assessment and profile for Moto several years ago. And then this is a screenshot of at their AGM that year. They had kind of like a fold out brochure, and right in the middle, they were articulating how much of their supply chain is local. It's the cool thing about doing one of those assessments. A lot of businesses who say like, well, I always knew I was doing a lot, but I had never like actually sat down to fairly thoroughly measure what I was doing. And so then they could say it's actually 90 to 100%. And I think it actually increased because they identified like one supplier that they could switch over. So, so that's something, it's empowering for businesses to be able to talk about a statistic rather than just sort of like local whenever possible. This is a great example. Strong's has been a partner for many years. And so during Buy Local Week, they sort of had this like Instagram tile where they talked about who their local suppliers are, and sort of like reinforcing them as a local business. because of all the local products that you can get in store. And so they had all these, they used the dot on every image, and then you could, click through to find out more about all their local suppliers. They also have one of the best examples I know of in-store collateral. So they've got this local BC product labeling, and then they've got a little story about the business or the owner beside products in store. So that's the top right. And then other examples I love, just like, what are the local ingredients, right? This poke shop is telling their story about like either which farm the ingredient comes from or where it's sourced, and really talking about their local ingredients through that graphic. Another cool idea is to engage, like if, I know nobody on the call is a creative agency or anything like that, but you can feature your clients. And so when we worked with Squamish, we had a creative agency that was part of the campaign, and she was like, well, how do I activate this campaign? And so what she did was she got her clients to fill out the poster and to help them articulate their local story, and then she featured them on her Instagram throughout the campaign. And so it was just really like a way for her to bring impact measurement and buy local branding to her customers. There was another cool example in Langley. A local printer was like, well, we're local, but what we love to do in our Instagram is to feature our clients. So they're sort of like featuring what they do, like, which is like, oh, so-and-so came up and picked up their hats today. So you can see, oh, I can get graphic, screen printed hats from them. And then you get to see like all of their clients. So they're kind of co-promoting, but also showing how they're local and all the cool local businesses they work with at the same time. Leveraging communications and media. So down here on the bottom left, one of the best examples we've seen is Squamish. It has a great email list for all of their chamber members. And so, they're sending out, as soon as they get the campaign materials for us, they're sending it out to their businesses. They also had right below here, I'll show you in a minute, like, they had another tile of here's all the Squamish businesses that are involved, their stories linked to the website online. And so, educating their members about the campaign and how to leverage it as it's coming up, giving them a lot of the stats and the materials. Pemberton as well, like has like the big info sign as you come into town, and so they used our campaign materials to put that up and remind people coming to Pemberton to think about shopping there during the holidays. This again was a blog post done by Salt Spring Coffee. So we're sharing the materials out, but then people are sort of like reusing them within their communications. Some people have used it, like that again, used the dot to then do an ad during an ad and a sale during BC Buy Local Week several years ago. And then the last thing I want to mention there is that we've managed to get pretty good communications media for the last several years. And some of the best things about sort of like using the campaign materials, tagging us, putting it out, on social, is that we're then aware of what great local stories there are out there. And so when we're doing press releases around our campaigns, then we can quickly connect you to the media if they're asking us. They're like, and I mean, I don't know if any of you work with the media, but it's, we've had Andrew Ha from Global for the last several years. She's been really great. But again, I don't even get a conversation with her on the phone. She's just like, I need retailers. I have, I could be there Wednesday morning. And so then I'm scurrying around figuring out like, okay, who's got a great local story? How can I get enough of them in one area so that we can like walk from place to place? So it's best if, as a business or as a partner, if you can let us know, who the great local businesses are, then we're always trying to get the businesses to tell the story in the news. And the last 2 years, we've had a great spot on Global right ahead of the shopping season. Another thing we're seeing, which I love, is that people are using their reach to promote locals that they love. So, you know, you can tell your own story, of course, about how you're local and the ingredients you use and all those kinds of things. But people are also using Buy Local Week and other campaigns to promote their, as like kind of a time of year when more people are talking about local businesses. And so, you know, Greenworks was like, here's some stats on, you know, why it's important to shop local. And then, you know, this week, every day of the week, we're going to share people that we love or an event that you can go to where you can do local shopping. Again, Yumasoy Foods, they, you know, use the dot on all their products, showing how they're local. And then they shared some of their local businesses where they love to shop and then asked their community to engage and share businesses as well. So they're sort of using their own platform to promote other local businesses. And then here's my acupuncturist down here, and I love how she's got high visibility. It's right in front of the toilet in the bathroom. And so she's got a community board, and so you just have to clear it with her that you can promote your business by hanging an image or business cards. And she's using the BC Buy Local dot and talking about how they love to promote and empower other local businesses in the community. Sure, there's a million ways we can do that. You know, featuring local businesses. So this is more as like a partner. Here's some examples of how, you know, Point Grey Village or East Village Van, they've kind of used our images in their social media, and then use the 7 days framework during BC Buy Local Week to feature different businesses. So we tend to, you know, talk about like buy local online or shop in store, or, you know, so buy local food, all those kinds of things. And so they use that daily call to action as a way to promote different businesses in their communities. They've done a really great job. As I mentioned, Squamish just sort of like talked about, here's all the participating businesses. You can go and read their stories online. I dragged this out from you years ago. It's 2016, Isabel, but you did a great job of, you know, like just showing your own resources for connecting with local businesses, and then using the Buy Local branding to connect it to Buy Local Week. Specials and contests, of course, people love them. So if there's something you can run, or, you know, just want to use the branding for that week, then it helps connect you to the bigger campaign. You know, here's just a real estate company, they decided to use it to do a giveaway. GoGo Bags did, you know, Customer Appreciation Week during Buy Local Week. Donald's has used it on their, you know, kind of bi-weekly specials, and then they tend to sort of like put a local owned sticker on each of the products that's local on that flyer. And then, yeah, we've done campaigns from time to time, and this was one where we were asking consumers to identify local businesses that they supported. And that's it. Anybody have any questions? Ideas? Anything I didn't cover that you wanted me to?
Hi, Amy, good to see you, by the way.
Hi. Likewise.
Since we did this, actually, the last time you were here. The Buy Local Week, so December 2nd to the 8th.
Yeah.
Do any preliminary exposure on that?
We are going to do, well, we start really during Black Friday. Sometimes we'll do a post around the beginning of December to let people know that it's coming. And then I can't remember what the deadline is for partners, but you should, our deadline rather, you should receive, I know the Amplify information went out on October 1st. And so I think our deadline is coming up to provide you all with those materials. So you can certainly do early posts. We are trying to start earlier because, you know, the research shows that consumers get out there and are, you know, starting their holiday shopping early, all that kind of thing. So we tend to do like a Buy Local Week is coming early post, like beginning of November. And then I think last week ahead of Black Friday, we did it think we launched our Black Friday reel on the 15th last year. So yeah, so there will be a couple of early posts just trying to encourage some of that, just because the big corporations are doing early advertising. It's even started, I think I saw Christmas decorations out as soon as it was back to school. So yeah, they start early. And so yeah, we'll have some early posts, and I can get you that schedule if you need it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So Amy, I just had a question.
Yes.
There'll be different ways that I think we could possibly partner or get involved. I would
Yep.
just maybe directly connect with you on those, because it'll be
Yes.
more specific, because being a locally owned business, that would be our aim and our focus. And I would probably have more specific questions to you that I could maybe
Yes.
connect with you by email.
Yep, absolutely. Be happy to have a
okay.
quick call. Yeah, and just
Yeah.
we can run through all the materials that we have. And yeah, if you have multiple locations, then it's sometimes better to just have a chat.
Yeah, I think it just probably it would be such a very specific way that we would want to get our name out there.
Of course, yeah.
How we could work together. So
Yeah.
in the interest of everybody else's time too. So would it be best for me to contact you in person, like over the phone or email?
Yeah, just send me an email. My contact details are right there on the slide. Yeah. So
Yep.
just note that down, and I'll provide all these slides to you after, so you'll have that. And yeah, by all
Perfect.
means. Yeah. And I can send
Okay.
you a link to my calendar. You can just book some time with me. And yeah, because I know businesses are very conscious of their brand too. So they want, I
Yes.
know often people are like, okay, all these campaign materials, and how do I, what do I actually want to put up on my store walls or in my window? And how can I, so we have brand guidelines too. I can provide all the materials digitally, and you've got some guidelines about what you can change and what you can't. So.
Right. And then just as well, like how we would partner, what would that mean? What are some of the timelines around that?
Yep.
With everything coming up, and then with Small Business Week coming up, like it's around the corner.
Yep.
I just had a question about what would be like, how would we partner with you to get the word out? I mean, we've been around for 49 years. There aren't many locally owned businesses,
retail stores. Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
that have lasted.
Yeah.
So you may remember the days of Susie Cream Cheese, or so on and so forth, Devonshire Cream. All of these retailers are no longer. So we're one of the few, and we're proud of it. So having 9 locations, I think it's something to be very excited about. We have many employees, so the whole discussion is around local impact. We're definitely there, but
love it.
I was curious as to what would be an example of how we could be supported to get our name out there, that we are locally owned during the October 20th to the 26th, the Small Business Week. So what would be an example?
Yeah. Are you a small business? Like how many?
Small business is defined as?
So a couple of different ways, actually. So in BC, because we have very small businesses, we have our own definition, which is less than 50 employees. And then in Canada, they use the Industry Canada definition, which is less than 100.
Okay.
So, I mean, I should have said we sometimes use small and local interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. And so small business is sort of like has a government definition. I don't love it because, a business like yours, or even a lot of the local businesses that are not small, Mills Basics is one, Van City is one, they sort of have similar challenges to small businesses. They're still competing against the gigantic companies. They maybe don't have the same deals from their suppliers, or, whatever it is. So, I don't love the definition necessarily of small, but just so you know, there's small and then there's local, and we sort of say small and local because we like to focus on both. But mostly during Canadian Small Business Week, that's what it's kind of like defined by someone else. The government of Canada, chooses the week. We're just trying to leverage it. And, I think it's still a good time to talk about your business. But for us, our campaign mostly focuses on small businesses that week, and also mostly focuses around business to business, more like the local supply chain.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Just an idea for you is you might want to focus on your small business suppliers that week if you wanted to link it up to the messaging in our campaign. But we can talk offline. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. to bat some ideas around with you
Okay.
offline. So just send me a quick email. Yeah.
Sure. So that is less than 50 employees. So we have more.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
Do you have less
So
than 100 or?
I'll have to do a count.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it is less than 100, but more
Okay.
than 50. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might, Canadian Small Business Week, you'd still eke
Yes.
in under under that
Yeah.
deadline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and
Thank
I
you.
encourage you, I mean, it does make sense, like, and but you might just want to have like a little bit of a different slant on it. If you're going to do both weeks, maybe you want to talk about more about your business and, I don't know, your business story versus like during the holiday season, that's really for us focused around consumer spending. And so,
Right.
yeah, but anyway, we could talk about that.
Yeah, I think I would be probably more inclined towards the locally owned business that we'd be focusing on. But then we turn 50 next year, so there's always opportunities to showcase our next year as well.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, we can certainly talk offline on some of the details about that.
Okay, sounds good.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from New West or the Heights? No, Isabel, you don't have a working mic, so I'm watching the chat here in case you have any questions. Hopefully that was useful. I tried to make it, I know nope, all good, she says. I know in Maple Ridge we did a workshop, so I tried to focus this less on the content that we shared there and more around some ideas around how partners leverage our partnership and use the materials. So hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, very much so. Thanks, Amy.
Okay, good. Yeah, send me any feedback by email. I'm always open. And yeah, looking forward to we'll see you online. See you online during Small Business Week and by Local Week. And I'm sure Kyra, if you're a partner, Kyra will be sending out all the info. And if you're not on our list as a partner, like I said, you can, Downtown New West, if you're not on our list and want to join for free and just make sure you get all the materials, then just let me know.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.